All right, this is the first part of the Module 3 county test. So, we've got quite a few word problems, so let's just read through this to begin with. A drama club is thinking of putting on a play and charging $20 a ticket to their 100-seat arena. Their costs are $800, so they need their sales to be at least that to put on the play. So, obviously, if you're only making $500 and they're going to spend $800, they're not going to run the play at that point and they'll just stop. What statement would correctly describe the range for them putting the play on? And you can see on the side here, we've got some numbers of people and we've also got the sales that go with it. So the range here is talking about the Y values. So we're looking at sales. Now it's very tempting to look at this and go straight away, oh, it's between 0 and 2000, and then click this. But remember the question said, their costs are $800, so they need their sales to be at least that to put on the play. So if they get less than $800, they're not running the play. So they're not running for $400. So in actuality, the question for this one is this one here. Now, they could, of course, ask it the other way around. Instead of asking for sales, they could ask, they could be talking about, instead of range, they could talk about domain. So for that one there, if you've got to have at least $800, you need at least 40 people. You can't go more than 100 people just by the fact that they only have 100 seats in the question. So if this question was domain, we'd be picking answer A. The domain of the function y equals 5x plus 2, for those values there, find the range of this function. So once again, we're finding the y values. This is one of those where we use our slider tool. So if I just open up my calculator quickly, if I was just to type in y equals 5x plus 2, then you can see it's drawing a graph here, which is not what I want it to do. That's why we put in the capital letter here. So if I put 5x plus 2 and just delete the y equals part, it'll let me add a slider. And then I can change it to whichever number I like. And you can see that one of the answers is -8 here. If you then change the slider to the other value, 4, then you can see you get an answer of 22. So the range is between these two numbers. So you don't need to check every single value for this, like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, the graph's just going to continue to go upwards for a graph like this. So if we look at the extreme points for this, that'll be enough for us to find out what the range is going to be. Also, just that reminder, numbers inside parentheses are x values as well. That's why I put x equals -2 here. Jay has some money for clothes shopping. This graph of 3x plus 8y equals 24 shows how many pairs of shoes and socks they can afford with the money they have. What do the x and y intercepts mean? So to me, this is a really easy question in the fact that we can just look here. It tells you it's 8. It tells you it's socks. Sometimes they'll even label the x-axis as well for you, but you should certainly know that's this one here. So as I'm looking here, 8 pairs of socks, this looks good. From the x-intercept to 3, that also looks good. And oh, this actually says all 3 pairs of shoes from the y-intercept. Oh, well, let's have a look. Yeah, this does say 3. This does say shoes. I think we've found our answer. This one, if you're Russian, you might pick 8 pairs of socks, but that says from the y-intercept. Well, that's clearly the x-intercept. And who knows where this answer came from? 5 pairs of socks? Like, I'm not even seeing anything at that point there at all. So, pretty easy to pick out. The graph of line y equals x is shown below. Drag the dots to draw the graph of a line m if m is 2 times as steep and m is moved down 1 unit from y equals x. Now on this one, we're going to drag points, but in reality, you're just going to click on 2 points. And if I remember the question correctly, you have to click the line tool first, then click the 2 points, and it'll draw the line through them. If you only have the 2 dots on the picture, it's not going to work. So y equals x, you can see goes through 0. And it says for this one, we're going to move it down 1 unit. So if I move it down 1 unit, it would go through -1. Now, the slope of this line here is just 1. Goes up 1, across 1. So if it's twice as steep, we want a slope of 2. So for 2x, that means that you go up 2 and then across 1. There you go. And you can see that it's on the correct point there, and that should be good. And this should actually be, if it's twice as steep, I know that's y equals 2x. If I know I go down 1 place, it should be -1. And you can kind of look at the picture. Perhaps I might need to zoom in just a little bit. You can also see here, do you see how it goes between 0 and 1 here? And this one does as well. Now, if you're still not great at graphing, remember you can also do this. You can click on the wheel you can click on table, and there are certain points on here that you can then plot. So you can actually see points on the picture here, and you can match yours to go up. So I can see this point here, for example, is 2 on the x-axis, 3 on the y-axis, but you can see that from the table as well. So you could also use that as a way for finding out where the next point on a graph is if you're still struggling with slope and y-intercept. Oops, let me go to question 5. Plot the y-intercept with the red dot. Now that's specific just for this coding that I've done on this program here. So as it starts with y equals, the number without the x is going to be the y-intercept. So that will be 1. And then for the slope here, remember the negative only applies to the top number here. So negative 2 over 5 means I'm going to go down 2, and then I'm going to go across 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. And you could do the same thing for this one as well if you needed to. Y equals negative 2/5. Oops, make sure you get the x in the right place though if you're doing that. And you could match the picture up just to see. You can see, I think, that where it's under, it's 1 square beneath 5, it's 1 square beneath 5. Now, if you're using that table method, you will actually notice you get some decimals here, which is not super helpful. So whatever the bottom number is on the fraction, if you enter that as one of the values, you can actually see 5, -1, which should be that coordinate right there as well. So that's another little tool you can use to just check your answer if you're not sure. This is going to be an evaluating question. So let me type in the question. And we just have to remember we got to use a capital letter for this because otherwise Desmos thinks that we're going to want to draw a graph. Add the slider. The number in parentheses is just the x value. So we can set that to 3. 124. I did not make this multiple choice. It easily could be, but there's no reason why a question like this shouldn't be a type-in question as well. All right, bit of a thinking question. A principal is trying to find a relationship between the number of assignments a student receives and the amount of time it takes to complete these assignments. They collected data from the 5 students below. So one student had 3 assignments, it took them 40 minutes, one assignment, 20 minutes. So in general, I would think if you have more assignments, it's probably going to take more time. There's like a positive relationship there. As one goes up, the other one goes up. Anyway, let's see what they asked for. Which question would most likely generate this data? So, how many assignments do you get on average per night? Well, yeah, that could be a pretty good one because you can see that. But then you have these extra values. So, you got to make sure the question includes both of these two things. How long does it take to complete your assignments each night? Well, that's certainly a number of assignments and how long it took them to complete. So that's a possible answer. How many assignments did you get and how long did it take to complete them? Well, that looks even more specific to this question. So I'm going to go with this one here. Which subject gives the most homework? It doesn't even tell us a subject, so it's definitely not that one. What was the most number of assignments you were given? Well, we're talking to individual people here, so it's not that. They just asked what was on a specific date. This one might be a little too close to the correct answer here. How long does it take to complete your assignments each night? That might be a little too close to the real answer. Perhaps by the time you see this, that question will have changed just a little bit to make it more obvious that it's answer C. But yeah, how many assignments? How many assignments? How long did it take? How long did it take to complete them? Okay, so I think that would be the one they're looking for. Which data fits? So this is the one where we just got to type in a table. And we kind of did this a little bit on the previous test as well. So -2. I'm going to type in all the y values first. So, sorry, all the x values first even. So the top row is the x values, and then the bottom row is the y values. As you're typing, just make sure you don't make any mistakes, any wrong numbers here, and we might not actually find the correct answer. All right, that looks good. Click on that magnifying glass so you can see all your data values. And this definitely looks like a linear regression. That looks like a straight line. So let's go ahead and add that. And you can see that goes through. That looks pretty good. That might go through almost everything. 0.999, very close to 1. So yeah, almost goes through every single point. And then as we're looking at answer, bit of rounding here. Y equals 3x plus 4. And there's y equals 3x plus 4. We don't need to type in an explanation of why that's true. I think we can see that it's clearly that. If you want to be extra sure, if you thought, for example, it was 3x minus 4, type it in. You can see that that's not very close to the line of best fit. But that one there, you can see, is almost identical. That is really close to the correct answer. So pretty easy to tell. Miss Nieves wanted to investigate the relationship between the number of minutes her students studied for a quiz and the score they got on the quiz. So, certain people responded here. It looks like they've been sorted by time, so least amount of time to the most amount of time. Looks like the scores are generally going up for this one. So, what does the data show? Now, if you can't tell, you can absolutely type this into the Desmos calculator, click on that magnifying glass, look at the picture. For me personally, as I'm looking at this, as these numbers are going up, these numbers also seem to be going up. So, no clear pattern. Well, that's definitely not true. The people who did more studying scored lower on their quiz. Well, that's certainly not true either. A pattern of quiz scores decreasing with more time studying. Well, that's also not true. And that's also basically this same thing, but phrased slightly differently. A pattern of more minutes studying resulting in higher scores. That definitely seems to be just from looking at the table, but you can type it in as well if you're not sure. So for 13, I put the reminder here of what the different types of correlation are. The absolute value here just means we're ignoring negative signs if we have any. And 1 is perfect correlation, as in every line lies on the point. 0 or very close to 0 means no correlation at all. 0.7 or above is considered strong correlation, and between 0.2 and 0.4 there's a pattern, but it's a pretty weak pattern. So for this one here, 0.7523, looking at which one of the category it falls into, this is bigger than 0.7, and for that reason, I would want to select strong relationship. But your question could easily include any one that fits into here. And they could also have negative numbers as well. If this has been negative 0.75, I'm still saying this is a strong correlation because the absolute value means ignore the negative, so still be 0.75. And that covers the starred questions on the county test. There is a second part to this video for people who want to be 100% prepared and try the additional questions afterwards once they finish to make sure that they're ready for those as well.